Hello, Mech Warriors, and welcome to the Mech Bay, where we fix your mech and fix your game. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mech Bay podcast, your number one source for everything casual up to competitive tabletop Battletech content. Today, me and Dustin talk about how we made a mission, played it, and our thoughts on the game and the post-battle report for it. So, starting out, we've got a little bit of Battletech news. This just in, Wave 2 is incoming.
That's right. Catalyst sent out a email, and all the shipping containers have left China. So, I don't know how long it takes those to get across the ocean, but they're coming. They'll be here one day soon.
So, if you're just now hearing this, make sure your address is updated. Unless you're planning on getting your Wave 2 boxes from either Ares Miniatures or Fortress Games and Miniatures, do that now.
Also, MechWarrior 5 has released on, I think, just about every gaming platform. I know a lot of people were waiting for it to leave Epic Game Store. They also released, Piranha Games also released a free update for the game, and you can come play it with me. We're going to be doing a social night this week on the Mech Bay podcast Discord.
Yeah, so if I read correctly, that comes with the Heroes of the Innersphere pack. So you've got actually like infantry and everyone else in the game.
Yeah, I haven't seen the infantry in the game yet. I'm not sure why, but who knows? Yeah, it's a $20 DLC. I think the standard game is selling for $30 most places. And pro tip, only one player needs the Heroes of the Innersphere DLC to play if they host it. So your buddies don't all have to buy the DLC to play the DLC, I guess.
All right, give it to me honest, Dustin. Do you enjoy MechWarrior 5 more than MechWarrior Online?
I do now. I had a lot of fun playing MechWarrior Online back in the day. I just don't have the time to dedicate to online games right now. I kind of have to be able to, I got the kids. I got to be able to stand up and leave most of what I'm doing, and online games, you don't want to ditch your friends like that. So
no, I fully understand.
Yeah. MechWarrior 5, I'm having a good time with this expansion. The game's kind of a puddle. It's not very deep. So, you play through it once, you collect all the mechs, give it a year or two, and then you can play Gotta Catch 'em All with the mechs again. It's an arcade game.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. If I have read all the forums correctly, mods are not working for the Steam release right now, and that's kind of upsetting the people that waited and then are now buying it.
Yeah, I'm sure the modders will, be on top of that, getting everything fixed up, so you can play your real-time strategy Battletech on MechWarrior 5.
That's what I'm waiting for. I hate to say it, but I am waiting for turning the newest MechWarrior game into the newest quote-unquote Mech Commander game.
That's right. Live the dreams you want to live. Through mods, all things are possible.
Don't let your dreams be dreams, people.
That's right. I've heard rumors that the IlClan sourcebook is slated for June, I want to say. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty hyped on IlClan. Josh, how about you? How are you feeling about IlClan sourcebooks?
I am keeping myself tempered until I see more in the pipeline. Like, I want to see more of the IlClan era fleshed out before I fully delve into it. Like, I'm ready. I did my Dark Age stuff. I did my End of the Republic games, and I'm just wanting to make sure that there's enough in the IlClan era that there's enough to support me as a gamer.
Yeah. I think this is, the first part of that, but we'll find out hopefully soon.
All right, so let's get some hobby progress in for the last 2 weeks. So today's hobby progress is brought to you by Ares Games and Miniatures. Remember to get your hobby on at aresgamesandminis.com. Dustin, what have you been up to? I know you've been busy these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I've been mostly busy. As far as hobby stuff goes, I haven't been super busy. I painted up my albatross that I ended up not using because it is not pre-invasion.
I'm pretty sure On the Origins of Battle Mechs called you out on that one.
Yeah, I had definitely made a big goof and made a list with, I think it was all Helm stuff, but it was all post-invasion. And I definitely said we were going to do like between 3039, 3050, like pre-invasion, post-Helm core game. And then he was like, bro, none of that stuff is, legal for your list. And I was like, crap, I got to make a new list. But anyways, I painted that Albatross up. And I also put a little work in on my Clan Wolf Alpha Galaxy. That's all on my Kickstarter mechs.
Whoa. I mean, I saw the Albatross. I saw it. It looked great. Our
Thank you.
new Battletech friend saw that and thought it looked great, but I have not heard about this Alpha Galaxy.
Yep, it's just, I had to put paint on the Alpha Galaxy, on my Clan Wolf stuff, and I guess I'm doing Alpha Galaxy, Beta Galaxy, and Gamma Galaxy. I'm just, just a Clan Wolf boy.
The full clan.
Yeah.
Is that the full Karinsky, or?
Definitely. Yeah, how about you? What have you been up to, hobby-wise?
Well, if you're on our Discord, you saw me take everything that I got in Wave 1 finally outside and put a nice big coat of black primer onto it. And that was it for my painting. You'll hear later that we actually got a game of Battletech in, but I'll save that for in the next couple minutes. But I did deep dive into wanting a World War II historical naval fleet just for the fun of it. Like, it was one of those things that I'd always wanted as a kid. And now with you having a 3D printer, me having time and money, the two of those things made a wonderful child that I like to call plastic miniatures that make myself happy.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see that you paint those up, or at least the two test prints we got. And it's all your fault. Now I've been listening to World War II naval engagement videos on YouTube at work, so it's all your fault.
I've read through a bunch of the rules for these games, and I'm like, this is just Battletech, but on the water. Honestly, Battletech is one of the best, in my opinion, logical follow through. What do you think would happen? And then that happens after you roll dice. And a lot of the World War II games that I'm seeing do that, and it kind of just fills that gap of, well, I want something that's in the past, not in the future, and using previous technology. Everyone loves their mech, and their mech has a personality. And to me, World War II ships have that same kind of aesthetic. The only thing right now is I'm debating on what scale to print them up as. Do I want them to the mech scale, or do I want them as teeny tiny so I can put them all in the palm of my hand and essentially paint them up and use them for a diorama? But you also came to my house and you delivered something that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, and that's the 3D terrain for the Mech Bay podcast itself.
Yeah, I got my old 3D printer, brushed the dust off. It kind of went cold over the pandemic because I was frankly using it exclusively to print Battletech terrain. So when I quit playing Battletech, I quit printing.
Well, we didn't quit playing Battletech. We just took a hiatus for mental health.
That's true. And now we're back, baby.
We are back. I mean, masks are off in some places. We're still waiting for the game stores around us locally to let us go back into the play areas, but we will be back in force. We will be bringing people back into the game. We've already gotten 2 people during quarantine into Battletech, which I think is actually pretty impressive. And as I'm speaking this, I found the dice that I was looking for because they were next to my microphone.
Ah, that's where they were on the.
That is where they were. I knew
right behind you the whole time.
They were right in front of me, right next to the thing that I do most Battletech of. Am I looking? Do they have my Comstar dice? Yes, they have my super curved, very warped Comstar dice because I was waiting to use these, and I was I spent almost a full hour looking for my Comstar dice. I was these will be the first times that Comstar dice will be used in Battletech. It's been a year since I got them. No, I could not find them. Where were they? I kept them in a Crown Royal bag. This is actually from my class ring from high school bag. That's how long I've had this, and it's transported it, and it went from desk to desk. It never went anywhere in any boxes. It was too precious, and I completely did not know where I put it.
Excellent.
So, anything else for hobby progress this week?
That's it for me.
All righty. So, the name of the game for this week is Back to the Table. So,
yeah, getting the game in.
Yeah. So, we actually were able to meet. All of our schedules aligned. the gods on Mountain Olympus just said, you two may play a game without mask at someone's house with 4 mechs on an afternoon without interruptions, and it was beautiful.
And it was incredible. The birds were chirping, but we were inside, so we didn't hear them. But I bet they were out there.
You heard my dog whining, but that's about it. I put the pressure on you to write a mission and that we would play it out. So, Dustin, please describe the mission that you wrote for us to play this beautiful Memorial Day weekend.
So the basics were that there were 3 objectives. One was placed in the center of the map, and the 2 other hexes, or the 2 other objectives, were placed mostly in the center of the map, in between the players, but left to right, they could be placed wherever the players decided, and each player gets to place 1 objective. I kind of placed one off to the right, and you surprised me by dropping the 3rd objective kind of in tight with the other 2. We ended up playing on effectively 1 map sheet. You score 1 point when your mech is on the objective from turns 1 through 3. After turn 3, we randomly remove 1 objective, and then the objectives are worth 2 points per turn. Scoring is done at the end of the turn after heat. The game was 12 turns long. In the list we use, although I want this mission to be somewhat list agnostic, what we decided to use, because, this is our first game back to the tabletop, and gosh, a year and a half, was, 4 mechs, 5,000 BV2, no forced withdrawal, because we didn't have the brain power for that for this first game back to the table.
Yeah, we've played a bunch of online things, but this was literally the first classic BattleTech we played in person in a year and a half. And it's sad, but we were responsible adults and we were doing as best as we could. So, Dustin, what were your thoughts when you were designing this mission?
So I want to have a mission pack. The end goal is to have a mission pack for my next tournament. I want all of these missions to reward flexible list building, but I want each of the 3 missions to reward flexible list building in a different way. In my mind, I wanted this mission to reward a speedy lance. I don't know if that is, I don't know if that will be true after play testing, but that was what I was envisioning for this mission, was to reward a nimble lance that could quickly get to the objectives. That was my intention. We'll talk later about whether or not I think that is actually what this mission rewards, I guess.
I'd say our biggest goal was to just have a mission where killing the opponent was not the end-all, be-all of getting to the table.
Especially that. And I kind of, maybe one of the missions will be blast them all, but, with flavor. But maybe none of the missions need to be like that. Maybe, because when is your goal to just completely crush the enemy? I guess that's a thing sometimes in war. But anyways.
If I remember the definition of war, quote unquote, is to make the enemy not be able to do what he wants to do.
Right.
So for us, it's we want to be able to win, whether it's kill or not kill.
Right. Yeah, because just blasting your opponent isn't always the best way to win the war, so to speak.
Yeah, for this one, it could be seize the mech base or seize the repair yards, seize the ammunition factories. Essentially, just there were objectives that we wanted to take that would cause the enemy to lose his purpose of being on the field at all.
Right. It was definitely like a take and hold kind of mission. How good is your lance at getting to the objective, taking it, holding it from the enemy?
Just to reiterate, this was like a post-Hell Memory Core pre-invasion kind of game. So we were limited into mechs that were produced before the clan invasion. So Dustin, what did you put for your mech lance?
So I brought a Victor 9K, which is kind of just a Victor, but now with Gauss instead of the AC-20. I bought a Grasshopper 5J, which has an ER large laser and 2 medium pulse lasers. I think they kind of had to drop 2 of those pulse lasers to squeeze everything in. It also has a Streak 2 instead of the LRM-5 and an anti-missile system. that I don't think I ended up being able to use because you did not shoot missiles at it. I had a Centurion 9D, which is just the better, faster, upgraded version of the Centurion. It's got the medium lasers facing forwards and rearwards. It's got that LB-10X and the LRM-5, but now with Artemis. And it's faster. It's a... Shoot, was it a 6.9? I think it's a 6.9. But at what cost, kind of, it has a XL engine, which, for inner sphere XL engines, that makes your mech actually kind of squishy. I brought a Hermes 3S. He's still fast. He's still got medium lasers, and he's still got no armor. I think this one squeezes in a mask. I'm not super familiar with the original or, intro tech Hermes, but this one has mask.
No, I think that's a good list. I think you hit the nail on the head with things that you want for any objective-based game, which is you got long-range shooting, you got close-range shooting, and you got something fast to react to things that your opponent is doing that you can't really handle from range.
Yep.
So,
how about your Lanch? What did you bring?
So I had decided on essentially going with the theme of returning to manufacturer specs. So mechs with manufacturer specs. And that is the Champion 01, the Lancelot 01, the Crab 27, and the Mongoose 66. So,
and how are those chassis different than their Secession Wars inferiors?
So the Champion is using the LB10X and an SRM6 with Artemis 4 and Indosteel. The Lancelot has the XL engine, so and Indosteel, so it's got more armor and more heat sinks. The Crab has Indosteel, so it has the armor to really fill out that medium role. And the Mongoose finally has a little bit more improved armor, and it's got the Beagle Active Probe, which really doesn't come into effect in these games, but it's just something to kind of pad in that slot.
Yeah.
This was what I considered a fast mech lance. It's got no jumping. It doesn't have what I would consider superior firepower, but it has good movement where everything's a 5.8 or faster. And I really put all my eggs in that basket of speed will win me this game. And we will see if that actually played out or not.
Yeah, I like this. You definitely need faster mechs if you're not going to bring any jump jets. So I like seeing the mobility on these chassis. That's got good all arounds ranged firepower with the Lancelot and the Crab. That's a lot of large lasers. The Champion can reach out and touch with the LBX, and the Mongoose is just, it's a Mongoose. It's going to run up. It's going to stab you in the back. That's a feisty little mech.
I always just imagine as like the rabid mech of the Lance. Like, I have 3 mechs that do what you think, and then 1 mech that's just going to like jump onto you and just completely like bite your leg until you
just gnaw at it. Yeah, he's a loose cannon.
But
he's the Chihuahua.
Exactly. This is a Chihuahua mech. Like, the Mongoose has the speed to get behind any mech that it wants, and you can't deal with it until you just decide kill the Mongoose.
Right.
That's why I'm enjoy playing it.
Chihuahua, but scary.
Exactly. But yeah, this is 4 large lasers, 1 PPC, an LB10X, and an SRM6, essentially, for good play. And then the three medium lasers for the Mongoose. So it's not the high-level firepower that I would like, but all the armor is what I would consider medium to high levels, and the speed is in the definite high level for what I would see for this level of game.
Yep.
So let's actually talk about when we put mechs on the field. So we played this game on, Saturday? Or was it Sunday? No, it was Sunday.
It was Sunday.
So we played this game on Sunday. So
it's fresh.
It's fresh. So this is at least 24 hours after we've rolled dice. We have pictures in front of us. We've got battle notes. So you're getting the hottest tactics, strategies, and everything that we can put out. So, Dustin, turn 1, we roll initiative. What is your thoughts going into this?
So I deployed with what I thought was a balance of, aggressive posturing on the objectives, but not so aggressive that I would lose a mech to, kind of a bad play, so to speak. So for me, I typically play pretty conservatively, but in deployment and in those opening rounds of the game. But I knew that, to kind of take command, take control of the battlefield, I had to control the situation from the get-go to start scoring early. I kind of pushed myself to be a little more aggressive, but not too aggressive, with a pinch of caution. I had what I thought was kind of a reactive deployment, but an aggressive one? I don't know.
No, I would agree. You put your assault mech, the Victor, to one side to kind of fend for itself, but also say, here I am, deal with me if you want to. And then you put your 2 heavies to the other side with the, hey, here's combined firepower. I have a lot of shots. The Victor can cover me if you're going for this. And then the Hermes was in the back to kind of chase anything that you thought might get through the line.
Right. So I had the Hermes on one objective to score in the first turn. And then, I definitely have like my heavier assets in the backfield, but ready to get into the scrum ASAP because you had kind of secured 2 objectives with your heavier assets on that first turn. What were you thinking on deployment?
So my first thought was spread out the armor. So I see the Victor go down early, and I'm thinking to myself, that's a lot of firepower and a lot of armor that I don't want to deal with. So I put my medium, my light mech on that side, because if they're going to go down, they're not going to be like completely crippled out of the gate, rather than like my 2 heavy mechs, my champion and my Lancelot. If they take a Gauss round or anything else from the Victor, they're really going to put me on the back foot, because anything else from any of your other mechs will punish me. So I'm putting those 2 heavy mechs against your 2 heavy mechs, and I'm putting my medium and my light against your assault. I'm really trying to leverage not as much my tonnage, but just my mechs to stay around longer.
Yeah, you don't want to lose a mech this early in the round, because you still want to make those objectives.
Exactly. Like your assault mech might hurt my Karab, it might hurt my Mongoose. I doubt it could kill one in one turn. 2 heavy mechs, that's more on the possible side. It could completely cripple the Crab, completely cripple the Mongoose. I don't want to put that on the table. So those 2 lighter mechs go against your heavy. I should say your assault mech heavier, and my 2 heavies go against your heavies to kind of balance the field.
All right. You want to move into turn 2?
Yeah. So after turn 1, we've got my Lancelot on the middle objective, my champion on the far right objective, and your Hermes has raced onto your far left objective. Tell me what is kind of going through your head during this. What tactics are you trying to employ?
Yeah, so going into turn 2, I saw that you had those, your heavier assets on the one flank, and I kind of start to shift my Victor into some cover, but he's going to make his way over to reinforce that side. And my Grasshopper also shifts that way. My Centurion, which is very different with such a big engine, he's moving so fast. I was able to get him on the objective and kind of put his back to the base. It's not the edge of the map, but it kind of felt like the edge of the map throughout this game.
It was a level 0 against the level 1, and then a level 1 against the level 2. So it was definitely like a natural incline of sectioning off this side of the table.
Yep. So I would say I was playing a little reactively in this turn. I'm still trying to keep my mechs, kind of safe, but kind of trying to redeploy and push it back against those heavier mechs.
Yeah. So my turn 1, I essentially raced my 2 heavy mechs onto the objectives just to dictate the engagement, see if you were going to push up and brawl, see if you were going to sit back and snipe. Like, I wanted to kind of see what you were going to do with this lance, because I know what the mechs can do on paper, but I don't know how you're going to play them. After turn 1, I've seen that you're willing to hold me at range, so I've backed off the Lancelot, and I've moved the champion off the objective. So by turn 2, I'm not on anything, but I'm still want to say that I'm holding the middle. I'm wanting to see if you're going to push and be really aggressive or be conservative.
Yeah, and I think that segues pretty nicely into turn 3. And I did end up pushing that Victor. I kind of left that flank alone I decided that I was just going to have to not be afraid of those two heavier mechs on that flank. So I kind of went back to the other flank with the Victor. I felt like I possibly, trying to read your moves, was being baited with the two heavier assets. So I put the Victor on an objective. I moved the Grasshopper reactively to the center of the field to keep him flexible. He still has the jump jets, so I feel like he could navigate around, but only 4 hexes at a time. I moved the Hermes to the backfield. I don't want to get him destroyed this early in the game. I wanted to have him around so I could use his pretty incredible speed. So I put some high movement mods on him, and I charged the Centurion in to kind of push your backfield, which he ended up getting shot in the back, in the rear armor, and I think you rolled for a crit, and there was an XL engine and a lot of ammo in that torso section. So that was a risky play on my part, and I think I got lucky.
Yeah, so turn 3 was kind of when I want to say, established what we were willing to do in this game. So you decided you were willing to push your Victor onto an objective and just keep him there. So that Victor, I will say, never moved from that objective for the rest of the game. He turned, but he never left the objective, which I think is key to keeping an objective, is willing to commit something to it. Like, you're not willing to get off of it. You're just like, this is a mech. It is going to score points every turn, and I am willing to put it on the objective every turn to score.
Yeah. I liked how turn 1 and 2, and then, kind of everybody's doing the dance. The objectives aren't worth as much. Turn 3, you've still got the 3 objectives, but that next turn, one of them is disappearing. So you're still kind of trying to be flexible. This is what I was thinking, at least. I'm still trying to be flexible with my Lance, but it's time to get aggressive. It's time to make the money plays, because the objectives are going to double in points. They're going to go from 1 point per turn to 2 points.
Yeah. So I've committed all of my mechs to 2 of the objectives. I have 1 backing up another mech, essentially, for each objective. I've got the Champion and the Lancelot for 1, and the Crab and the Mongoose for the other. Because if one objective goes, if it's yours or mine, I still have 1 at least. If I have 2, that's even better. But I always have 2 mechs for the 2 objectives.
Yeah, I think that's why I made a risky push with the Centurion at this point, because I felt like I was on the back foot. You definitely had more of the objectives, more of the field covered. So that's why I started playing. Or I think that's why I made that riskier play. It was time to put up or shut up, so to speak.
I still liked the Centurion push because it kind of made me rethink shooting forward rather than clearing my backfield, because you don't want someone running amok in your, what you consider safe space, essentially.
Yeah.
And this is where a few mech choices that I actually actively push for came into fruition, and that's the Lancelot's arm flipping ability, which was key for this game. Like, I used it multiple times. For most games, I don't consider it great, but for an objective game where you're thinking not as much statically front to back, you're thinking objective front to back, that was great, because I was moving towards an objective. You had rushed behind me, and I just flipped my arms back and put a large laser into your rear torso.
Yeah, it was a great play.
Unfortunately,
on your part.
Yeah, unfortunately, this entire game we had many tacks and many structure rolls, but very little 8-up rolls, and it was very disappointing.
Yep.
But the ability to just attack everything in your forward arc and your rear arc at the same time with, I want to say, at least more than 50% of your damage ability cannot be understated. That is, you are a 360 degrees threat.
Yeah. The arm flippers with the bulk of their weapons in their arms are, you can't escape their firepower. It's nice.
So let's take a quick break, and we'll hear a word from our sponsors.
Rev up those reactors, because I sure am hungry for some sea bills. Us here in the Crescent Hawks are looking for talented mech warriors with the drive to win it big. You may know me, Jason Youngblood, from your favorite holo recording of The Secrets of the Phoenix Hawk Lamb, Wrestling with the Dragon, and Operation Liberty. But today, I'm giving you the chance to prove your worth on the battlefield and live out your dreams of fame and fortune. I'm holding trials at Ark Royal this June to select the next generation of Hawks. So come on down, put your money where your mech is, and prove that you have what it takes to be a part of the best mercenaries in the Inner Sphere. Today's segment is sponsored by Fortress Miniatures and Games, where you can pick up individual plastic mechs, professionally painted lances, and the new Hex City terrain to fill your tabletop needs. Check them out at fortressminiaturesandgames.com.
And we're back. Okay, so turn 1, 2, and 3 have finished up, and at this point, me and you are at a tie at victory points. I've held 2 objectives for 1 turn and then 1 for 1, giving me 3 points, and you've held essentially 1 for 3.
Yeah, one objective per turn in the first 3 turns.
We are even if I have one side of the table and you have just 1 objective secured completely. So going into turn 4, this is when 1 objective goes away. So
yeah, we roll randomly, and the midfield objective is the one that disappears. So now there's an objective on each side of what is effectively the area of engagement, which is only half the map, but the objectives are about 13 hexes apart?
Yeah, I think that's exactly how much we measured.
So yeah, how did the removal of the middle objective change your game plan?
I definitely wanted one of the 2 far objectives to go away, because that would dictate a closer engagement where I could just move all of my fast mechs to kind of start circling around the 2 objectives. And this turned into 2 discrete lines, especially with 1 objective behind a level 1 terrain and the other one behind a heavy woods and a light woods. So there was essentially no line of sight between our 2 objectives, and that just worked out how it was.
I think I placed the one behind the partial cover and you placed the other one behind the woods, right?
The one behind the woods is the center of the map, so that's the has to go. So the one I placed was in no man's land. There was no terrain. There was nothing around it. I wanted to encourage a slight brawl with no discrete advantages or disadvantages.
Yeah, so when that center objective went away, I felt like I really had to commit to 1 objective for sure. So that was going to be the objective the victor was already on. And then I was just going to have to get crafty with the other one. But I definitely shifted gears. I was 100% playing for the objectives, still trying to not make any silly mistakes, but mostly playing far more recklessly than I typically do.
So turn 4 starts, and we've got 2 objectives, 13 hexes away from each other with no line of sight between them, and a big old empty no man's land to deal with. What I'm thinking at this point is I have to push you off of your objective at any cost. Like, as long as one of my mechs is on my objective, it doesn't matter if you kill all 3, as long as I get you off for 1 or 2 turns.
Right, because at this point you have the point advantage.
Oh, well, at this point we're tied still.
At the end of turn 4?
At the end of turn 3, and the removal of the middle objective, quote unquote.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you're right.
So we're tied, and I feel like I'm the one that needs to react and act on that and dictate you moving off your objective. I don't care if I have to scare you off. I don't have to care if I push you off. I just need to do something to shift the balance of the game to my favor. At this point, I'm willing to commit my champion and my mongoose to the fray. So I leave my crab to back up where kind of the midfield. My Lancelot is now on my objective. I feel like it has enough armor. Even if it's taken 1 Gauss round to the arm, it's still got a PPC and a large laser and a medium laser. And it's got enough extra fun and heat to kind of deal with anything that gets close. But I devote my champion and my mongoose to getting each flank. So I put my champion behind your grasshopper, and I'm hoping that it has enough weapons to deter you to either back off or commit to a brawl, essentially.
Yeah, and I had definitely at this point I had to commit to the brawl, so I moved all of my assets. Like I said, I'm thinking I'm going to have to reinforce this objective and get crafty with the other one. So I bring everything over to the victor to reinforce it.
So yeah, at this point I've got 2 heavy mechs and I have 1 assault on / securing the objective. And I have to see if the dice are in my favor or not in my favor. And what happens after that turn?
Yeah, so I got a couple of super hot rolls. My victor lands like 2 shots with its Gauss rifle on 10s or 11s. I think we just kind of scrum for the next. So kind of turns 4 to 6 is most. There's a lot of brawling over on that side. I'm trying to think or remember if anything especially exciting happens.
My champion gets behind your grasshopper, and I try to alpha strike you to get something lucky, because I know you've got ammo in there. And I'm hoping that if I can at least get something good, that I can shift the tide of the balance in my favor, because I don't want to deal with your assault mech over multiple periods of turns. I want to kind of get rid of a mech in like one flash. And I was hitting you on 9-ups, even point blank, and I just couldn't rely on that. The LB-10X missed, the SRM-6 with Artemis missed, 2 medium lasers, 2 small lasers, they all miss. I do less from the rear of you than I do from the crab from medium range with 2 large lasers.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I had to run the grasshopper. I got a mod of 2, and with gunnery skill of 4, it adds up fast. And throw in some unlucky rolls, and the grasshopper was ready to fight for the next couple of turns.
Yeah, so at that point, I'm kind of wondering to myself, have I messed up? I've overcommitted my champion and my mongoose to kind of see if I can push anything, see if I can get lucky, see if I can exploit any holes in your battle plan. And turn 5 and 6, I've actually decided to take my Lancelot off of my secured objective to throw in a little bit more rolls into the mix to see if I can generate any advantage, because a PBC and 2 large lasers is very good even for medium range.
At this point, in this late turn 5, turn 4, I'm trying to get rid of the champion, so I'm trying to focus it down. It's not dying anytime soon. My attention starts to wander, but my attention is kind of wandering to the Lancelot. It's at range, putting fire into my mechs. The champion's getting pretty hot. So at this point, I feel like I can start to ignore it. That wasn't entirely the right call, but and I'm starting to look at that other objective. You move your Lancelot off, I think turn 5, and that's when I put the Hermes over to that flank. So I see the opportunity turn 5, and I think by turn 6, the Hermes is on the objective, and he's going to die for the Captain General. At this point, turn 6, I moved the Hermes over there, and I fully expected him to die after 1 turn. So he had his mod that turn, but your crab was on top of him. Your Lancelot was through the woods, but right in front of him. And I think I'll get those 2 points this turn, but the Hermes will die either this turn or next turn, turn 6 or turn 7.
Yeah, you definitely exploited me for my 1 turn of I can move off of this objective and put a couple rounds of fire off of you and then move back onto it. You saw that and you decided, no, I'm going to move my light mech as fast as I physically can onto that objective and just hold it. I don't care if I die. I don't care if he shoots me. It's worth it to just, because I'm not just buying this turn, I'm buying the next turn, because he can't move there if he doesn't kill me this turn.
Right.
Yeah, the champion does not die. The champion doesn't really do as much damage as we all thought it would do.
Right.
It moves into a woods and it just stays there.
But boy, it becomes a bullet sponge.
Yeah, because at this point it's, I want to say at plus 12 heat. Like I completely cooked its 10 regular heat sinks, and I'm just sitting with 5 hexes of space in between your objective with your Victor on it, and I have a heavy mech just dead still to your dead still mech. But I've got plus 2 to my movement, I've got plus 2 to my shooting. Essentially that mech will never get to move again unless I just give up a turn of shooting.
Yep.
And the mongoose is on the other side, hoping that you will commit something into it and I will punch you on the back. But we've essentially got this nice like triangle thing between our objectives. You have both of them at this point. And as we will see, leaving my objective, even for the gamble, will prove that I lost that gamble. It is extremely difficult to move a mech off of a hex.
Especially when you forget about charges and pushes.
Especially when you forget about charging and pushes, which we both forgot.
We both totally forgot.
In our eagerness to play. Because if there's one thing that would have changed the outcome of this, it's charging. Because there were many 1 or 0 hex moves of getting point blank and just not being able to do anything.
Yeah, the mechs become dead weights on the objectives because mechs always last longer than we think they're going to, unless you get lucky, and there's just no way to get the mech off unless you push your charge, which we totally forgot about. So in that light, I feel like that was the right play, and I'd kind of secured both of the objectives. And having a 4-point swing is pretty devastating, I think. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but what do you think?
Yeah, you didn't just turn this into a 4-point lead. By the end of turn 6, you turn this into an 8-point lead, which is very hard to recover from, considering each turn the objective is worth 2 points.
So yeah, you want to start talking about the last part of the meat of the game, turns like 7 through 9.
Yeah, so we consider this over the crest, and if you haven't secured your army's objectives by now, then it's going to be a tough battle. And I gave up my army's objective for the hope that I could deploy pressure on you, draw you either in, draw you off, do something to make you react in a way that you didn't want to, but you held firm. You did not move. You reacted to my champion and Mongoose running over, and you just held firm on the objective. So you were playing PTFO, play the objective.
Yeah, I was playing the objective.
Exactly, which I think is great. So you saw through my ruse, and you just punished me for it. So turns 7 through 9, I feel like you have the lead, and you have a light mech that is fast enough to exploit your 2 objective advantage, essentially. So if I lose the initiative, then you will move off the objective, and I can't get onto it to score. Like, you don't need to score, and for 2 of these turns, you actually get off of it and then get immediately back onto it.
Yeah, I had a super sneaky or lucky situation where I had lost the initiative, but I got to move first, which means I got to move my Hermes. I think this may have happened around turn 5, but I'm remembering it now. I had to move my Hermes back onto that objective. So first mech to move that turn, I had moved him onto the objective, off of the objective the previous turn, and I got him right back on there, so he could have a modifier, which was pretty clutch. And I could only do it because I lost initiative for whatever turn that was. But he was speedy, he was flexible, and he was hard to hit.
I mean, I thought my Lancelot, 4 hexes off of the objective could arm flip and get a light mech, but just you getting onto the objective, generating a high enough modifier was difficult enough for me to shoot you. So even with no armor, that modifier really came in. So a light mech really...
Yep. I think
really
you landed...
lived out its bonus here.
Yeah, I think you landed like a large laser, which was devastating for the Hermes, but devastating, losing your arm is not that bad when you're just trying to die for the captain general.
Yeah, this was definitely a mechs don't matter, objectives do. And a light mech, while some might say it might not have the offensive or defensive firepower, it definitely had the still armor points to sit on an objective and rack up points to win the game. And turn 7, 8, 9, you were only on that objective one of those turns, but you prevented me from getting onto it for 2 of them.
Right.
Which is immensely critical.
You did manage to put down the Hermes eventually. I think towards, turn 9 or something like that. My Victor, that whole scrum that was happening over on the other flank where I was using the Grasshopper and the Centurion as best I could to screen for that Victor. The Victor, it's got 18 points of armor on its arms. And luckily for me, all the damage was going to the left arm and the legs of my Victor. That Gauss rifle in the right arm was basically untouched.
Yeah, I don't think throughout the whole game that I touched the Gauss arm, which was very disappointed to me because that's a primary weapon that you want to knock out early.
And I've got the record sheet right here in front of me, and you got internal on my left arm. You removed the left leg from the mech later in the game, but the right arm, literally no hits on the right arm. The right torso untouched. So I definitely got lucky in that regard too. I've definitely had games with my Victors, because I love my Victors, where within the first 2-3 turns, that primary weapon's gone, and it can go both ways. And this time it went my way.
You definitely held it in. You realized that an assault mech not moving but holding the objective and racking up the goal of the mission was more important than getting any kills, because he got a few Gauss hits in and he got a few laser hits, but other than that, he really was just sitting on the objective.
Yep. It was just babysitting that objective, racking up the points. So, turn 10, 11, and 12, kind of the sunset of the game.
So by this point, you've finally put my champion down after an engine hit, a head hit, a leg damage. I've passed 3 PSRs in one turn, still haven't died, and the next turn you finished me off just by getting through all of my CT armor and then my CTS structure. There was literally nothing left of the mech to bubble in by that point.
Yeah, I feel like you were doing an excellent job of giving me tough target priority decisions. The champion was over there attempting target because it was immobile. It wasn't immobile. Sorry. It wasn't moving. It wasn't generating a modifier. You were making my life hard with the mongoose, but also keeping the crab, in front, I think with low mods for most of the game. So I was like really trying to put things down. But you were spreading the damage around for sure. So all your mechs were around until very late in the game. I say they did start to fall, in this sunset portion of the game, turns 10, 11, and 12.
So by the end of the game, I've killed the Hermes finally, which has let me put my crab on the objective. So I'm racking points back up. I've committed my Lancelot back into the, I want to say brawl, but he's slowly moving towards, because his minimum ranges for everything is, his short range, I should say, is 5. So he's putting good mods on the Victor that's not moving, but has partial cover, which is extremely important because I think several of our hits hit the ground rather than hit him, which saved him on several PSRs.
Yeah, eventually you were moving all of your mechs up onto that level 1 so you could shoot past that partial cover, because that my Victor was trying to take advantage of.
And I didn't want to get on that level 1. Like, that was in close range for medium pulse laser range. That was SRM range. That was Victor plus the 2 other mechs could really exploit the open level 1 that was there. Because, while partial cover is good for you, me being in open terrain with a 1 or 2 mod is not good enough to counter that.
I did land some lucky shots with the Gauss rifle early in the game, but the Victor did whiff 2 turns in a row, 2 shots on 4 up or 5 up. I think one was 5 up and the other one was 4 up or something like that. So less luck in the Gauss rifle in the later portions of the game, but I think at that point it would kind of would have been insult to injury, because I was at this point, turns 9 through 12, I was like, how do I keep my Victor alive? I was playing super reactively because I already had that objective secured. I already had the lead, and I was kind of coasting at this point.
I tried to give you the worst possible targets, and if I couldn't stay in medium range for your Gauss rifle, I was going to be point blank to get the minimum 2 range of the Gauss rifle, which is equivalent. It's either stay minimum range or stay medium range. Short range is just giving you too good of a hit because you're not moving. You can just torso twist to get +0 on me. My options were limited, so I decided to commit the Lancelot and the Mongoose, try to push you off. The Mongoose then goes for the Grasshopper and the Centurion, and I will say almost every turn, it's putting 3 medium lasers and a small laser into you.
Yes, it
turning
was.
Maybe 1 turn down to sink back to neutral heat, but just not forcing the PSR or not getting anything good on those really hampered my decision making.
I think later in the game, another interesting thing that happened is you were stabbing my back with your Mongoose, but the Victor and the Grasshopper, the mech designers fortuitously put plenty of rear armor on those mechs. So I don't think let me look at my sheet. Yeah, you never managed to get through the rear armor of the Grasshopper. We're talking 10 points in the left and right rear torso. The Victor, you didn't. I think there was just 1 shot, but also the Victor's 15 points in the center torso, 10 on the left and right torsos. So I had a lot of armor, and it ended up getting rolled around, especially my Grasshopper. My Grasshopper is just, riddled with bullet holes at this point in the game. And it's just, I got 1 crit to a jump jet. The thing was, combat effective, and enforced withdrawal technically.
Yeah, but this was no force withdrawal. But
Right,
that is one big thing to think about is while shooting the rear of your enemy might be good, that's almost a fresh side for
later
torsos.
Into the engagement. Yeah,
you almost want to be shooting the front because your other mechs are probably shooting the front as well. The only thing that the rear armor really helps you is he's not able to put all of his weapons into you, so that's free weapon shots and a free punches or free kicks.
Yeah,
and I put several kicks in, but at this point I only got one forced PSR where you failed.
Yeah, there were lots of kicks in this game, and lots of good PSR rolls. I think the Victor went down because it lost a leg, and then the pilot loses consciousness. And we'll talk a little bit about that in like kind of the
it never lost the leg. It just got unlucky on the PSR roll. I think I hit an actuator on a lucky crit.
Yeah, you had critted out the left leg, and I'm rolling 7s maybe on those PSRs.
That sounds right.
And I went down, and then I had already taken a shot to the face. I failed my 5-up consciousness check. I failed the seatbelt check, I think.
Yeah,
and then failed the consciousness check. Yeah,
on the seatbelt check, you crash hard.
The Victor's out, but still scoring points. So I think that kind of segues. Oh, also I think maybe the very last turn of the game, the Centurion puts the LBX through the back of the Lancelot's head.
Yeah.
Which was funny, but it was the end of the game, so kind of not a big deal.
Yeah. So at this point, you've put, I want to say, the Centurion, which is wounded, over to try to see if the crab will play with you, essentially.
Yeah.
You're wanting to see if I'll push it forward, I'll push back, if I'll give you the objective, but I've kind of learned my lesson by now and say this crab lives or dies on the objective, no matter what range you get to.
Yep.
And my Lancelot and Mongoose are fighting over the Victor's objective. My Mongoose goes to try to run interference and pays heavily for that. I think you took out a leg, an arm, both side torsos. It just got lit up as a light mech should when it's trying to point blank a regular mech without generating more than a +1 mod.
Right.
But the Victor goes down. He's unconscious, and the Lancelot is... The best
kicking,
part was
shooting.
Yeah, the best part was the Lancelot had planned to try to kick you in the face, or at least the side torsos, and do like more damage on the kick, but you failed the PSR and you went down, which was fascinating because it's the one time you wanted to fail the PSR, and I did not want you to fail the PSR.
Right, because you were on that level 1 and I was on that level 0, and now all of a sudden you can't kick that turn.
Yeah, so 16% chance to just ultimately kill you because you'd already had head damage, was gone. So I have to spend one turn of running to get to point blank on the level 0. And after that, you call my bluff, you get right behind me, and you put 10 points of damage. You put a big old LB-10X slug right through my cockpit.
Yep. I think it's funny that the Victor, unconscious pilot, so you're adjacent to prone, so I think you're getting -6. I'm like, just roll the locations with that Lancelot, and the Victor still manages to just tank it all.
Mechs are tough, and I think we constantly underestimate how much armor even a point-blank target is.
Yep.
Post-game, so Dustin, where can you blame the tactics, the dice, or the rust? And let me just say that I scored 11 points of our mission, and you scored 27 points on our mission. So you win almost by 3 times of an advantage.
It's a little combination of all the three. We forget to push and charge, but it plays into my hand better that we forget these things because I have secured the objectives, and we forget that that's even an option. So I think that's where one of the places the game went my way. I played the objective, especially after like turn 4. I was like, let's do this. Let's get those objectives. So I think that also helped me win the game. I decided to play super aggro, play to get those objectives, and mechs be damned. At that point, I didn't really care if they died. Yeah, post turn 5, I wasn't being reckless, but I was being almost reckless. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I definitely would chalk some of this up to rust. I mean, we can talk about charging, but until we get mechs on the table and dice in our hands, we completely forget about everything that doesn't make us comfortable in what we're doing. So I'm much more comfortable rolling medium lasers than I am rolling charges. And that was something that I forgot about, but definitely needed to keep in mind, which would have helped me push you off of objectives. I want to say 7 of those turns.
Yeah.
I will say I don't want to blame your Catalyst Games Lab Clan Wolf dice, but my God, I've never seen so many 6s rolled in my life.
They were great, but I don't remember when it was in the game, and I went to roll something where you want to roll low, but I rolled those dice and they were hot, and you were like, live by the dice, die by the dice. What was that?
I think it was you rolled a 12 on your initiative, and then you rolled the 2 on the PSR, because you definitely passed out on a 2.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to put this at 50% rust and 50% tactics. So I was definitely overeager to push and try to dictate the engagement after turn 3. Like, I had 2 objectives, and one of them went away, and I had 1 objective to your 1 objective, so we were tied. After that, I took a nickel ball of Gauss to the arm of my Lancelot, and I gave into the fear that I could lose significant weapons right out of the gate, because at that point I was like, I'm a medium laser away from losing a large laser on a heavy mech. And the Lancelot is actually my primary damage mech. So I gave into fear. I moved him back. Like, I moved him completely almost to my deployment zone. And I let that Victor just push me. And where I thought I was dictating the engagement, the Victor said, no, I am dictating the engagement.
Look at me. I'm the captain now.
Yeah, look at me. I'm the assault mech now. My Gauss beats your 2 large lasers in PPC. It doesn't when you think about it. Like,
right.
You had no other long range, hit me at that range weapons. It's just 15 damage, 1 spot. You're probably not going to hit that arm again. I just gave into that fear.
Okay.
So I let him push me off that entire side of the table, and he kept me spread out when I kind of easily pushed with the champion, the Lancelot, and the Crab against your 2 mechs, your Centurion and your Grasshopper. So I definitely underestimated getting off of the objective as well. So, like, I took my Lancelot and my champion off, thinking, well, I can push a Victor off that's unsupported. No, because the Victor just doesn't have to move. Mechs don't have to move, and you can't get them to move unless they want to move, and that's critical. So I underestimated getting off the objective. If I had started on that with something that didn't have to move off of it, I could force him to come to me. Like, if I had put the Mongoose on that and the Crab, the Mongoose can take a Gauss rifle hit and probably stay alive. The Crab definitely can. So I definitely lost in the engagement range, because I gave into my fear. I bubble in 15 points, and I'm like, I'm not doing so hot, even if I've done 16 points of damage across 4 mechs.
Right.
So how do you think you did in post-game? I mean, you won. We know this, but...
I think forgetting that we could charge and push played into my hand more than it did. Because when I secured both of those objectives, when I was using that Hermes kind of in a cheeky way and just, putting the Victor, couch potato style on the other objective, they were hard to remove. And that was a tool in the toolbox that you had forgotten about and I had forgotten about. And I think that would have made the game less decisive. If you could have pushed my Victor, there were turns and turns and turns where charges and pushes could have been attempted. So I think that could have been different. I feel like the dice were a little in my favor. That early game shot with the Gauss rifle that got you spooked was on like a 10 or 11. I was fully not expecting that to connect. And I think I got another shot off the next turn on high numbers, high mods.
I think you got the champion on the right torso, which kind of made me scared. It was like, the mech's now ruined. It's only got like a 1 or 2 turn life expectancy now. In actuality, it had several turns left.
Yeah, I think that thing was around to like turn 7 or 8, easy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that played into me winning the game. And then I played hard on the objective. I played, like I said, aggressively with a pinch of caution. I didn't want to make huge mistakes, but I took a lot of back shots. I had to give up a lot of positioning because I was just trying to reinforce that Victor. and it's difficult to get mods when one mech is stationary and you're just trying to screen for that mech. But it was worth it, and that played out for me in the end. It turned out that it was worth it to take that fire.
Yeah, just not care. Don't worry. You're on the objective. It takes some more turns than you think to push an assault mech off. Because I think we can both agree I won the positioning. Like my speedy mechs definitely. I shot.
Yeah, they were very
rear.
flexible.
Yeah, I shot at your rear more times than you shot at my rear over the entire course of the game.
Yeah. It could have been a very different game, if the Centurion had gone down in that shot that, but there's all kind of roles that could have made the game go differently. So
yeah, there was no edge on this game. There was no re-rolls. It was straight what rolls equals what happens.
Yep. So who would you say was my MVP?
See, that's difficult because I want to say you're Victor just for psychological purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Because it held the objective and it never moved. Like you literally moved it for 2 turns and it never moved the rest of the game. It only got 6, maybe 7 turns of Goss off out of 12 turns. So more than 50%, but it wasn't like clipping heads off. It wasn't taking limbs off. It was just like, here's random 15 damage, deal with it. Here's an arm. It's like, okay, cool. I've got multiple other limbs to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
The Hermes, though, I have to give the actual MVP because a light mech on an objective game with initiative rules. See, everyone underestimates the light mech until initiative's in play. And I lost the objective and I decided to get off. And you put the Hermes on, which meant for 2 turns, that objective was yours. There's nothing I can do about it. I can kill you, but I can't move you without charging. And I wasn't able to commit to the charge at that point. What about for me? Well, what were my MVPs in this losing game?
For me, I feel like your MVP was the Lancelot. It had scary firepower. It had great mobility, and it was just a pain in my butt for the whole entire game. It landed lots of large lasers, a couple PPC shots, and it was really anchoring that offensive push against the Victor. I just thought it was a very, very flexible mech, a great platform, great armor, great firepower, and great mobility. And I just think it was, the star of the match.
After definitely listening to the On the Origin of Battle Mechs Lancelot episode, I kind of wanted to put a little bit more like, hey, the Lancelot is a good mech. And the originally designed with Indosteel and an XL engine is a good mech with 2 large lasers and a PVC. A 6.9 with a heavy chassis is hard to put as a bad flavor. Like, it could really move anywhere. And when I put it off the objective, it went through a woods, went 4 hexes, and it's still in walking, and it's using a level 1 as cover. So it could kind of move wherever I really needed it to. It's just I decided to put that on the objective. I decided to put my most mobile asset on the objective rather than something that didn't need to move. And that's where I made the mistake of misusing the Lancelot.
I would say your definite number 2 was the Mongoose. It was one successful backstabbing away from being the MVP. But fortunately for me, you never quite got through into the juicy bits from the rear arc. So I had to give it to the Lancelot.
No, I agree. The Lancelot was my king of the day.
Thoughts on the mission looking back? So we're going to release this mission pack. I won't speak for Josh, but I would definitely love you guys to play test it. I'm definitely going to be making a couple of adjustments to the mission going forward. We talked about, I think we touched on how it felt kind of feels bad, right? An unconscious mech just flopping around on the ground, flopping a little bit or just being unconscious. I was scoring points with that Victor that was, combat ineffective. So I think I'll switch that to the mech needs to be standing and conscious on the objective to actually score points. You can still deny your opponent those points by having an immobile mech on that objective, but at least you're not getting twice as much, right?
Here's a mech on the objective. He's unconscious. He's no longer a mech. He's essentially a bunker, and I just have to drill through this bunker. It's hard getting through a Victor worth of armor.
Yeah. I definitely liked having 12 turns. You can count it with 2d6. I felt like 12 turns was a great number of turns. It took us a while to get through this game, but there was a little bit of distraction during the day. We were socializing a little bit. We hadn't seen each other in a while. A friend stopped by, but I think in a tournament setting, this definitely could get wrapped up in an hour and a half. And I think I'll be doing 12 turn limits. I'll have that in mind for the next 2 missions we write up. For the mission or for the tournament pack. I really enjoyed that length of game.
Yeah, 12 turns. I had one mech at, I want to say, 66% combat effectiveness, and you had a Victor that had just woken back up but was still on the ground. You had a Centurion that was at 33%. Like, I had structure on 3 or more places, and a Grasshopper.
The Centurion was about to go.
Yeah.
The Grasshopper was about to go. The Victor was legged. So yeah, it was good. A forced withdrawal, I used that as a crutch in my first tournament because I needed to speed the games up. I think having the objectives, it's possible that I won't need forced withdrawal going forward, which was nice because then you didn't have to think about it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it was actually nice to not have to worry about forced withdrawal. I could play with the mech, and as long as it was effective, I could use it. As long as the pilot was awake and I had ammo in the guns, it was still doing headshots. I mean, but yeah, I mean, forced withdrawal wasn't necessary with a determined combat length. It was nice to know I can generate X heat. If I generate 1 heat a turn and I'm okay with getting to 12 heat, I don't have to worry about forced withdrawal. Like, that was kind of nice. I could play Battletech as it was, quote, meant to be.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that I would like to hear back, or I'd like feedback on, is the lack of any edge roll, any edge points. So in my first tournament, you had edge, you could force a reroll, pretty much any reroll, to kind of get rid of that lucky headshot or that golden BB on the opening turn. I kind of forgot to put it in, frankly, but I wonder if that was, the right choice. So I'm going to leave it out. And get back to me. And
I thought it was nice that you could just play without having to worry, like, oh man, if he burns his edge on this turn, then he won't have it. Like, no, I'm literally just playing Battletech.
It's Battle Mech manual to the tournament, right?
If I hit your head, then and do enough damage, then you're dead. If you collapse and you pass out, you're dead. Like, it was nice just to play straight up, no homebrew, no added in stuff. Like, this is just mech on mech combat with objectives.
Yep. So for this week's Lance in Review, we asked the Discord server to write your favorite list with your favorite new upgrades from the Helm Memory Core. So not necessarily with this mission in mind, because I don't think you all would have known, but just a
if you did, you're psychics, and we need to send you back to Terra for questioning.
So for this week's Lance in Review, we took a list from the Mech Bay Podcast Discord server, and our random friend Jake was the lucky mech warrior. His list for a post-Helm Core Lance is the Hatamoto He 27U. This chassis is rocking 4 medium pulse lasers and 2 PPCs, a Panther 9R, which is our intro tech buddy, the Dragon 5N, which is basically a dragon, but now with UAC 5, and the Victor 9B, which is the best Victor, the intro tech Victor, with a AC-20 SRM4 and 2 medium lasers. So what do you like about this Lance, Josh?
So I definitely like that there's a distinct theme, like Hatamoto He, a Panther and a Dragon, and a random assault mech is the most Draconis Combine Lance I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, you could spot it from orbit. Like, yep, the DCMS is here.
The DCMS is here, and they're ready to play. But I definitely like that this has the mechs and the weapons to play to the range, but also to brawl. Like, this is the ultimate Draconis, all-purpose, drop it on a planet. It can do whatever you need without, like, too much overhead command.
Yeah, this Hatamoto 27U, a chassis I hadn't seen before. I really like it because initially you think it's undersynced, it's really hot, but really you're either running it at long range or you're brawling with those 4 medium pulse lasers. And it's got the armor and to back all of that up. So what a great chassis. I'll be taking a look at that one in the future.
The Lance having 3 PPCs just says, don't try to come at me at range. I'll hit you with 30 points of damage and punish you for every hex that you try to walk.
Yeah, and that UAC 5 at range is, nothing to sneeze at. And then you have that Victor. You have that very mobile, you have that AC 20 with jump jets and support weapons, for that close-in punch to really, really lay it down and brawl it with. This Lance has got it all. It's flexible, it has mobility, it has armor, and it has firepower. I like it a lot. Great job, Jake.
Yeah, no, this really is I can hit you at short, I can hit you at medium, and I can hit you at long.
Don't even know if I have any critiques. And 4,997 BV. Like, nice.
Right on the money. No room to spare. I will say my only thoughts on this is any line of sight, breaking terrain or anything, and this Lance crumbles. And this is something that we determined in my game for the mission, which was I have no jump jets and I have no indirect fire. And this list, in my opinion, kind of suffers the same thing. There's a little bit of mobility for that, like the Panther and everything, and the Victor, but not as much as I would want for an all-rounder list like this is kind of set up to be. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, my only thoughts for this Lance is I would love to see it on the table. On paper, like I was saying earlier, I don't know if I have any critiques. I personally don't like LRMs. So in my opinion, I'll disagree with Josh a little bit here. And I don't know. I feel like LRMs, especially when you're relying on spotting and indirect fire, it just never works out for me. And maybe I haven't figured out how to do it right. So, that's something I could definitely look into in the future. But yeah, this one checks all the boxes for me. And I'd love to see it in action.
Yeah, I think my only other thing is it's a little slow with essentially everything being 4/6 except the dragon. Like the dragon is your fastest thing, which is fine. That's normally a dragon's job. It's kind of be the tip of the spear for the Emperor.
Oh yeah, you know what? I would have to agree. I didn't realize that these were, it's all 4/6. I either want to have like a 3/5 assault and a bunch of flexibility, or maybe 2 4/6s, and I really like to have jump jets on those 4/6/4, or 4/6, which you do with the Panther and the Victor. And the Hatamoto, could get bogged down a little bit. And the Dragon 5/8 is good, but it's not super fast. There's no 6/9 in here, or faster, because you've given up that light mech slot for the Panther, which is an assault mech support.
Yeah, the Panther is not like the light mech in what we think a light mech is, which is a fast-moving scout or a fast-moving backstabber or something to get good spotting. The Panther's kind of I sit with the heavy mechs and the assault mechs and just kind of support them. It's almost just BV added onto them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a great list. I can't argue with that. It's just a little slow for my taste, and I feel like it suffers the same problems that my list that I just took for our game suffered from, which was lack of
all direct fire.
Yeah, lack of indirect fire and lack of jumping, which if you are setting this Lance for a game that's not critical, that's fine. It's just one of those things that you have to look out for. This will definitely outsnipe you on most pre-invasion post-helm memory core, unless you have ER large lasers or ER PPCs, which is not too many mechs for, but the LRMs will definitely hit your PPC mechs at the same time that they're hitting you. So, still a good list. Still one that I would definitely take on an average day.
Thanks for everybody else to send us a list this week.
So I'm going to give everyone next episode's call to action, which is to send us your favorite pre-invasion custom mech. That's right. I want to see what weird, wild, and weapon-filled death machines you like to roll around in that don't exist in the lore. So send us the mech sheet, the mech lab text, or whatever lets us know what we were up against at a glance. And just to spice it up a little bit, throw in a bit of flavor so we know what was going through your brain when you made this. It can be straight up technical readout style, in-universe description, or just why you made this mech to kill that one guy's all-large pulse laser mech. We'll pick our favorite one, and we'll talk about it on the next show. There's no BV limit or tonnage limit, Just try to limit yourself to technology that would have been around before the clans. If you liked today's episode and you want to hear more of us, you can find us on Facebook at the Mech Bay Podcast. You can also, if you have any questions, you can also reach us at the mechbaypodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to talk with us on a mech-to-mech basis, you can reach us on our Discord, where you can find our invite to that on our Facebook page.